All right, lads, welcome back to me podcast, Cheaper Than Therapy. Mick Thomas here. How are you? How you doing? Are you all right? Listen, thanks for liking, subscribing, and sharing and coming on back. I do appreciate you. Get me wherever you're getting your podcast from. If you're not watching it, head over to YouTube. You get to check out me mug. I'm going to make this episode pretty quick. I got nothing to promote, really. This Saturday, though, I am at the Babylon Theatre, the Argyle Theatre in Babylon, Long Island. Having a good time. All my other shows are just kind of me working on new material, so I don't really want to promote those gigs as of now because it's all a bit chunky, but the new material is going well, so I do appreciate it. We're going to have some fun today. I don't have that much time because the cops are about to come to my house. I do have an appointment with the cops based on something that I'll get into in another episode. Right, I'll get into that I'm just looking to check, make sure my mic is on. I'll get into that in another episode. But anyway, so let's have some fun. I figured, you go to bed last night and we are on the brink of World War III as it's all happening. But I just thought, you know what? I'm not going to talk about it because I don't have all the facts. So I'm going to read I got an email from somebody, an Instagram message from a guy, and I'm not going to talk about the war. I'm going to address what he said to me. So, as tough as it is, Nevertheless, John, we move on. So he sent me this email and he goes, hey, Mick, you said something the other day on the podcast. The dog's going to go crazy every time someone walks by the house. So please forgive the dog barking. I do beat him. Joking. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, so he said something. Hey, Mick, big fan from, I should have wrote down his name. I can't remember his name. Well, it wasn't his real name because it was like like lady killer. That's not what it was, but it was something along the lines of, a name, like something like that. And from Montana. Cheers, mate. Thanks so much. I like hearing that. I might go out to Montana soon. That's on my bucket list of places to go. Thank you, Yellowstone. And he goes, you said something on an episode where you said never look a gift horse in the mouth. And he said, I like how you explained where that came from. And I don't remember talking about it. Do you remember talking about it? I don't. And where it comes from is like never look a gift horse in the mouth is when you were poor and somebody gave you a horse, you could tell the horse's age by lifting up its gums and looking at its teeth, right? And you're like, oh, that's an old horse. So, and that's where the saying comes from, never look a gift horse in the mouth, because it's rude, innit? It's rude. So he wrote to me, he goes, hey, Mick, what about other sayings that you know? And he gave me a list of them. And I love history. Everybody knows Mick Thomas loves a bit of history. Love history, me. Big fan of history. Always have, always will. Big fan of it because I believe the reason why I like history is because we learn so much from history, and we can't go anywhere without looking behind us. That probably doesn't make sense to some people, but I meant from the point of a historic point of view. We don't move on, right? If we don't learn from the past, we can't really move on. And I love all history books. Of course, my favorite book, of course, is the one and only book, the Bible, with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and the Word of God is written in there. So that's my favorite history book, of course. But yeah, he sent me a list of things and he asked me, do I know where they come from? Now, I didn't Google any of these, right? Because I just saw it this morning. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I had the incident with the cops. And was I going to talk about World War III, which only would have ended on me shitting on people or making people depressed and making myself depressed? Who wants to talk about missiles and drones raining in on Israel? But anyway, so he sent me a list of things and I'm going to do it just for you, Montana boy. And so the first one he wrote to me, he goes, do you know where piss poor comes from? And I do. Of course I know. I know where piss poor. We all use that saying. Most of these sayings, by the way, come from the 1500s. All right, so I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. Piss poor, he wrote, right? The 1500s where most of them comes from. What that happens, and again, everything I say from here on down, you have to imagine it's in the 1500 times, right? So every time you saw a photograph of someone from the 1500s, they were just miserable looking. There was never a smiling picture from the 1500s. So anyway, piss poor. Piss poor means if you were very poor back in the 1500s, one of the things you could do as a family, because when they would take hides, from animals, like animal skins, pellets, bears or whatever it was, deer, depending on where you live, whatever they sold, badger, raccoon, I don't know, squirrel hides, I don't know. And what would happen is your family would all piss in the pot, right? And then they would take the urine to these pelt people, these people, and they would pour the piss on it, because the what it does is it does something to the skin. The immune in it clears out the skin and it washes it out and disinfects it. So yeah, that's a weird family activity, right? Of a Friday night, everybody gather around the pot and just have a piss in it. So yeah, it was a piss pot. So you were piss poor, and that's where that came from. Can you imagine standing out with your family? All right, guys, come on, it's time to go to work, and you're just standing there across looking at your dad's dick. Just as your mother is squatted over it. Like, how do you pee when your mother's squatted over? Or does she, you know what? She would go, yeah, that makes more sense, wouldn't it? She would go, then someone else would go. You wouldn't, because you'd be peeing on your mother's bum. You'd be peeing right on her thighs and stuff. So that would, but that's where piss poor comes from. So they would take the pot and they would bring it over. Now, and that's where, and that's if you were doing, like, that is if you were poor, but like, if you were even more poor than piss poor, right? You couldn't afford a pot. And that's where I didn't have a pot to piss in comes from. I don't have a pot to piss in. That's extra. That's an extra one. He didn't ask about that one, but I gave you that one. But that's where that comes from. I didn't have a pot to piss in. Imagine being that poor. You can't make up. You can't steal a bucket. Does that, like, you can't pee in your hands and cup them. You don't have something that will store some sort of fluid when you piss in it. That's how poor you were. You were either piss poor or you didn't have a pot to piss in. There you go. What was the other one he said? He asked me where... Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. He asked me about weddings. He asked me about tradition of weddings, right? So I'll tell you this one. I'm going to tell you the story before I tell you what he wanted to know was. So what happened was, back in, again, 1500s, you only had a bath once a year, right? The average person had a bath once a year. Most people had their baths in May. Why in May? Because wedding season was in June. People got married in June because it was warmer. It was warmer, so you would go have a bath in May, and hopefully you weren't that smelly by the time your wedding came up in June. I don't understand why you didn't have the wedding or get the bath the day of the. You know what I mean? It makes more sense. But who am I? And that's why they would give women bouquets of flowers to walk down the aisle, so it would kind of disguise their nasty smell that you gals produce sometimes. You know the ones, I don't need to go. You do. Sometimes you smell girls. And so that's why when you go to a wedding, that's why women carry a bouquet of flowers. Which I like the idea, because what would happen if you go to a wedding and, like, women didn't carry anything? They would just, like, walk down with their arms swinging? Like, do you know how awkward that would look like? And you're walking like fucking Conor McGregor just down the aisle. Like, that's not attractive if you're a man looking at that coming towards you, arms swinging. Right? You just know she's about business. She's ready to boss you around and make your life shit. But, like, you have to, you know, it makes sense. You do have to carry something. Like, a man is already up there. He's standing up there on the altar waiting for you. And then you come down holding something. Like, you would just have to put your hands, like, you would have to put pockets in your dresses. So that's where that comes from. That's where the bouquet comes from. That's what he asked me, the bouquet. Bouquet of flowers, right? We're learning. We are learning on this show. Next one. So that was blah, blah, blah. Raining cats and dogs. 1500s, most people had thatched house roofs. Thatched houses all straw, right? And then you would have different levels. And up there, that's where they would keep the animals. The animals would stay within the straw. Cats, mice, dogs, whatever the fuck you had up there, right? And then on rainy days, it would rain so hard that they would get slippy and the animals would just fall out. The animals would just fall out of the thatched roof section and just fucking hit the ground. And that's where, hey, it's raining cats and dogs comes from. Right? Can you just... you just imagine sitting there... Oh, he's falling off the roof again. So that's where that comes from. It's raining cats and dogs. That's where we had it, right? We're moving along. Where's this one said? What did he say? I can't even read my own. Only the wealthy people. Here's another one. I should have moved this up sooner, but I'm only answering it in the order he asked me. The wealthy would have... Only the wealthy people in their house had tiles on their floor, right? They had these special kind of chromey tile things on your floor, you know, in your house. But if you didn't have that, you had dirt, right? You had dirt on the floor instead of some sort of tile. So that's where dirt poor comes from. Dirt poor comes from people had a dirt floor. And then also they had on, you know, the door frame. This is like your house. So you had the door frame, and with your door frame you had it was, those tiles got very slippy when they got wet, right? So it would rain, the floor would leak, and they got very wet. So that's why you would have the threshold. They would put a piece of wood on the door, so when you came in the house, you wouldn't slip on the tiles or on the slates. So you would, that's where the name the threshold came from. So you would hold on to that as you came into your house. That's where threshold comes from. Okay, God, we're moving along for these kind of things. Yeah. This is a good one. This is a weird one for me. This one was kind of strange for me, you know, to see to understand this one. It is what it is, but people were poor, right? You lived in a neighborhood. It just kind of reminds me of like because I grew up very poor in Ireland, and everyone in our neighborhood grew up poor, and everybody kind of adapted. Like, you know, remember, did you ever watch Angela's Ashes and see like how can people live like that? We were not too far off Angela's Ashes, but the whole country was at that time. You have to understand, I was born in the 70s. Like, I was a kid of the 80s in the really bad recession. So Angela's Ashes, even though we had a better look on how, like, the traditions weren't as far off, right? About, and I get to some of them in a minute, but anyway, so no one, like, one guy on our street had a job, the Clears. Ian Clear was one of my best friends. Ian and Martin, his brother, good friends, and their dad, Martin Clear, Martin Senior. Martin, I remember we were kids, Martin died of a heart attack, but Martin had a job. Martin Senior had a job. He worked for a shop, a hardware, Joyce's hardware shop, I believed. And he had a job. No one else had a job. Everyone else was on the dole. The dole is welfare in Ireland. So everyone else was on the dole. My dad was on the dole, you know, in between jobs of truck driving and that kind of stuff, wherever you could get work. But so we were on the dole welfare. And but back then, and again in the 1500s, so if there was one person in the neighborhood and they got a job, what they would do is they were lucky enough to afford bacon, right, or any kind of meat. And then what you would do is you would hang the bacon up in your window to let the neighbors know that got a bit of bacon, boys. Look at, and hence that's where the saying came from, bringing home the bacon. That's where we get that saying from, bringing home the bacon. So you would hang up all of these, like, what a weird flex. Like, what a weird flex to have, right? You just got bacon hanging up in the window and the neighbors across the street looking at you. Susan! Look at him again! Excuse me. Susan, look at him. What does he think he is? With his fucking areas again every Friday, just hanging up the fucking bacon. Fuck me, man. Who's like, Susan, show me, flash your tits out. Flash him your tits. Tits are way better than bacon. Tits are way better than bacon. Now, I know tits are tits, but some are spectacular. Right? So just maybe Susan has spectacular tits. I would rather, if I was walking down the street, if I was in that neighborhood, right, coming home from not a job, just being out all day trying to find work or rummaging through garbage to feed my family in some way, and I'm walking down the street, there's houses to me left, houses to me right. I look to me right, there's a bit of bacon, right? I love a bit of bacon. It's been a while since I've had some of that. But if I look to my left and see a spectacular pair of tits, I might go with the tits. I might go over and see what's going on over in that house over there. But anyway, yeah, hanging up the bacon. So that's where that came from. So you bringing home the bacon. Bringing home the bacon. There you go. You learned that one. And the other one is, what was the other one? Oh, so then, you know, if you weren't a dick, if you were nice and you had someone on your street or someone in your neighborhood that you liked, right? You'd be like, listen, Jeff, come on over. What? Come over to my house. I got something for you. And you would chop off a little bit of bacon fat. And you'd go, there you go, mate. That's for you. You have that little bit of scrap bacon I saved for you. And then you would sit around and you would talk and you would chew the bacon. That's where it came from. Yeah, we're just out there chewing the bacon. Right? See? Or chewing the fat. Never chew the bacon. It's not. I ruined that one. It's chew the fat. So, what are you doing out in the street? Did you ever out with your neighbour outside talking? I was at the gym. Why are you home late? You usually only take an hour at the gym. I know. I bumped into Tommy and, you know, we were just chewing the fat. And that's something else. I bet you didn't know where that one was. So there was another one came up, right? And I'll tell you what happened in this one. And then I'll give you what Montana Man said to me. So if you can guess what I'm talking about. So if you would walk down the street and if you saw somebody look dead, like it was a family member, like someone come up knock on your door. Hello? And I go, yeah, listen, Looks like your brother Robert there is dead on the street. He's not moving. He's not moving. We don't know what got him. You know, it's the 1500s. Could have been anything. Could have been anything. Could have got him. What are we going to do with him? Like, bring him home, and you would put him on a table, right? You would put him on the kitchen table, and everyone would sit around and eat and drink for 3 days just to see if he was going to wake up or not, right? Because couldn't afford a doctor. There'd be no doctors coming to your house in the 1500s. And you would leave him there for like 3 days, and then you would find out if he was going to wake up or not. Hence, that's where a wake comes from. That's why we have a wake, because we used to just find the body, fuck him on the table, not literally fuck him on. That'd be weird, right? That'd be some sort of weird sexual assault. And you would just leave him. You would leave him there for 3 days, sit around, have a bit of food. 3 days is long, isn't it? Like, I don't have the patience for that. I would be like 20 minutes, poke him with a stick, fuck him in the ground, lads. He's done, right? 20 minutes is more than enough to check if someone's dead or not. Wouldn't you think? All your family's around, you're inviting all the neighbours around, and it's like, you think anybody ever just leaned in and went, he doesn't have a head. Like, he doesn't have a head. What are we doing? Why are we? Come on, let's just get fucking. Yeah, have a bit of bacon, please, right? See the way I turn that around? That's good. So that's where we have a wake from. That's where wakes come from. Isn't that fascinating? And then this one, I love this one, right? This is a good one. I remember reading about this one years ago. And I think they covered it in the movie The Nun. I don't know if you ever saw The Nun. Great movie. Great. That's a great, The Conjuring franchise, right? It's a great franchise. So people, when they died, right, in the 1500s, there wasn't that many, like, because you had to buy a grave, you had to buy a plot, but there wasn't that many plots available. So what they would do is they would go in and dig up the old graves, right, like recycle them, fuck the bones out, throw the new body in there. Now you got a brand new grave. You get a marker, you cross out, you know, here lies Stephen, and you put up here lies Barbara. And that's what you did. But when they opened up the graves, right, what they found was there was scratch marks in almost like 25% of the coffins. So what they realized, like, we're fucking burying people alive. What are we doing? So what they would do was, when you died, right, they would throw you in the coffin, drill a little hole, get a bit of string up through the dirt, right, and it would be attached to the bell, and the bell would be like on the end of it. Again, they don't really go into detail why, but they kind of have it in the movie, the Nun. But that's what they would do. And so you would have a little bell over every single grave. So then your job was to stay up, right? So if you had a job, your job was to stay in the graveyard, and just in case someone went jingle, 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 let's get him fucking out of there, right? Like it was a David Blaine trick, right? Jingle, 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 jingle. Hence the graveyard shift. And that's where that came from. And what we think about, like, he's working nights at Walmart, right? Stocking the shelves, putting all the shit together, right? It's the graveyard shift. That's where it came from. So, I mean, isn't there other ways to check? Like, surely there has to be better ways than going all out and digging a hole, fucking a body in, putting string up. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you're going to put the body in there, right? Then you got to put a string up so he can, like, you know what I mean? Attach it to his finger in case he fucking, you know, he doesn't have a head. Same guy. But that's where what they call it comes from. I thought this came from boxing. That's where I thought Saved by the Bell comes from, right? So a guy would be in your corner fucking you up. Happened to me many times. Also, humble brag, Mick Thomas had also put other people on the other end of that, right? I also put a hurting on people. But I have been in the corner. Fuck me. When's this round going to be over? Ding, 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 ding. Oh, fuck, that was great. Right? Saved by the Bell. That's where that comes from. But we also use it for school, don't we? Like, teacher about to ask you a question. Thomas, answer that question on Pythagoras' theorem. Brr, 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 brr. All right, lads, off to English we go, right? Saved by the Bell. But that also where the saying comes from, you might know it, called dead ringer. He's a dead ringer, that fella. Popular saying. So the guy, he's dead, but he's ringing the bell. Get him out of the fucking hole. And that's where that comes from. I answered all these questions, and I find that very, because I love history. If you have any other questions and you want to send them to me, if you have any other sayings you're not sure of, like, there's a few European ones which I would like to say, but you probably, like, there's not a, fuck me, someone's calling again every fucking time. You know, it's the cops calling me back. Hang on. Add a recording. Hang on. All right, let's continue. Sorry about that. The cops were calling me. Um, Again, I'll go into detail about what's happening with the cops. But yeah, there was another one there, a lot of European ones, like one is like, there's not enough room to swing a cat. Like you go look at an apartment or something, you go like, how is the apartment? Tiny, not enough room to swing a cat. It doesn't mean you grab a cat by the tail and wow, 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 wow. It meant when they would punish you on a ship, they had a cat of nine tails and they would fucking swing it and whack you in the back for it. But sometimes the quarters would be so small that you didn't have enough room to swing a cat. Anyway, that's all I have. I have to go. My phone is fucking blowing up. I gotta go see what the cops want. Thank you for liking, subscribing, sharing, and listening, coming on back. That was a bit of a different tone, right, than shitting on politics. Nice change, I think. Anyway, as always, wash your hands, you dirty fuckers. Good luck to you. Good luck to you.